Yo, what's up, Velo lovers? We're back. We got another episode of Pack Chatter. We wind up the road season. Well, Cross is coming, and we got a great guest to kick off just the beginning of Cross season here. That'll start locally as soon as next week. So, exciting times. Lots of cool stuff to get to. But before we start, we're going to hit up the sponsors. Start with Legacy Bikes, as always. Legacy Bikes, Legaci bikes.com. Owned by my co-host Todd Shesky. Todd's been running bikes and bike stuff and training and coaching and racing for a very long time. And at Legacy Bikes now he's branching out to kids' bikes and getting kids started, particularly kids under the age of 6. So if you got a kid under the age of 6 and you want to get them riding, hit up Todd at legacybikes.com or hit him up on Facebook. He's specializing in balance bikes. If you haven't seen balance bikes, they're the way to go. No training wheels, no pedals. Kids learn to balance and coast and move the bike underneath them before they start trying to pedal and balance without the training wheels. It skips the whole training wheel process. The bikes are cool. They're fun for the kids. They're durable. They're great colors. Stuff that the kids actually want to get on and play with. And at the same time, they learn the right skills first, and then they transition to a two-wheel pedal bike without ever messing with the training wheels or anything else. It's cool. It works. You can check him out on his website. You can YouTube balance bikes and see. They're definitely the way to go. So check out legacybikes.com. We're also sponsored by NYSBRA, the New York State Bicycle Racing Association. They're a great organization. They work on so many things behind the scenes for racing, whether you're talking about state championships or rider upgrades or event permits or grants to juniors and clinics and races. And they help do so many things that help keep all the races on the right calendar and coordination and things through USA Cycling that we don't always see, we don't always appreciate, but are just so vital to successful racing in New York State. So you can hit them up on NYSBRA.com. You can follow them on Facebook. There's lots of good information there. The cross calendar for New York State is up, and you can see where all the cross races are for the season. Certainly, if you have questions about getting an event off the ground or how upgrades work or different rules in different disciplines, there's somebody in that organization that's an expert in any area you're looking for. And if you hit them up, they'll point you to that person and they'll be able to help you out. So show them some love at nysbra.com or hit them up on Facebook. Lastly, we are sponsored by the up-and-coming Ocean Giant Gravel Group Ride on October 20th in Swain at Swain Resort in conjunction with the Swain Beer Fest. You can hit us up on Bike Reg and get your reg there. Your registration comes with a ticket to Swain Beer Fest. If you're not a drinker, you can get a ride without the Beer Fest price factored in. The Beer Fest has, I believe, 35 breweries currently. They've also got a few wineries, and I think they just announced a distillery that will be there as well. Live music, food trucks. It's a great little party, and it can all come before an awesome gravel group ride. It'll be very social. We'll go out as one big group. We'll have some ride leaders that'll keep everybody together. We'll do about 30 to 35 miles of really cool gravel terrain. Nothing that's been featured in a Mudslinger Gravel Series race. All different roads and all different terrain. And we'll lead you through it. I'll personally be leading it, and in an area that I grew up in and spent a lot of time on the dirt roads and really know the ins and outs of, so I can show you some cool stuff. And I got a lot of buddies who ride out there too who will be with us. So it'll be a fun time. You can hit us up on Bike Reg and check that out and join us on October 20th. All right. So that leads us to our guest today. We kind of have a little two-part show for you today. We got a short segment with our guest. It ends a bit abruptly just because we had a little technical issue, and then he had to get out on the training ride because he'd spent the whole day on planes and had to get back up this morning to get on another plane to Australia. So did a lot of travel, and he made some time for us, and we're really grateful for that. So welcome Anthony Clark from Squid Squad. He's one of the top pro American racers in the world. He's on the beginning of his season where he's going to race all over the world. He's starting in Australia and going to China, Japan. He talks about all those things. Talks about his sort of his upcoming through cross, and now that he's an established, seasoned pro, and sort of where he's at this year and how he got there. So we had a great combo with him. He's always a guy I love to talk to. He's one of the most exciting guys in the sport. He's got tons of energy, he's super positive, just a lot of fun, a really fun dude. So that's sort of our first segment. And then our second segment, Todd and I kind of wrap up some road season talk locally. We talk a little bit about the Trumansburg race and the upcoming cross season and some of that stuff. So you kind of got a little two-part show for you today. All right, so here we go. We'll get you started. Enjoy Pack Chatter.
This isn't a road race. This isn't a mountain bike race. This is definitely something that's in the middle of both of those, and it attracts a certain type of person, and I fit that mold. So
with my co-host, the sensei of sprint, Todd Shesky.
Dude, I'm still figuring this out.
It's like if it's too surface of a conversation, sometimes for me it's I don't know, mentally I'm just not as invested.
When John Boy and I used to talk to each other on the phone after races, we'd call each other driving home and we would talk about the race longer than the race was.
You'll never go out on a training ride and dig that deep. So if you want to get fit, you got to do the free gravel series because it's for people feel like they have to be there. But by the time they're over, people are just so hungry for more that they just can't wait for next year.
Thursday Night Worlds, and with some of the old names, Mark Hasselou, Ronnie Johnson, and the Humberts, and Kevin Delaney, and Alan Cote.
When you see a guy like Mike come through and for a sprint for fourth for a friggin' cookie, and he turns himself inside out like that, like that's it. That's what it's all about, man. That was awesome. All right, what's up? We're back with Pack Chatter. I'm with my co-host, Todd Shesky. What's up, Todd?
Not too much. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We got an awesome guest tonight. One of my favorite pro racers who's just about to head to Australia to kick off cross season because cross is no longer coming. I guess cross is here. We're here with national fan favorite Anthony Clark. What's up, Ant? How you doing, buddy?
What? I'm just hanging out here, living the dream, getting ready to fly to Australia. So getting excited for that.
Yeah, you're in. You said you just landed in Sacramento today, and then you kick off your first race in Australia. Where do you go in Australia?
We're flying into Melbourne, and we do I think it's the FOJCX cyclocross race. It's a UCI race in the center of Melbourne. It's pretty awesome. It's on a pretty technical course.
You raced that before then, I assume, last year?
Yeah, I did it last year, and they do a really good job with it. It's really technical. It's on kind of like the side of a hill, so there's a lot of off cambers. It's a really cool course. They got Belgium stairs in it. It's always exciting to come out here and race.
Nice. How's the competition there? How does that measure up for the first race of the year?
I think it's all pretty good because everybody down there, is full blown, coming out of nationals with really good fitness. And, we're coming off pretty good fitness off of training, but then we get all the jet lag and everything. So, you're trying to go as hard as you can. So, kind of it's a really good competition there. And then being, kind of tired from their cross season, but also really fit. And then us being tired from flying there and being fit. I think it's a good matchup because they always race well when they do the World Cup races or the USA races. So it's really fun to come out here, change it up a little bit.
Nice. What's the weather conditions usually like down there?
It's 50 to 60. Sometimes sunny, sometimes it rains. It's kind of the winter time, so it's not like the sunny side coast, but it's still pretty cool down there. Get to see kangaroos on some of the rides, which is pretty dope.
That's cool.
A little bit of change from deer.
Yeah, right.
Right. As long as you're not getting run into by any kangaroos, it's probably because they tend to be kind of they're not really afraid of people and stuff, right? So they tend to kind of just.
Oh man, I almost rode into one last year. We were riding on the kangaroo trails, they're just trails that lead through the woods, and I was ripping, and I almost rode right into one, and I was like, oh crap! Locked up the brakes and looked at it. It was probably within 2 feet of me, and it just popped off. I was like, oh, sketchy.
Do you get to get some riding in down there? Are you going to be there long enough to check out some of the local stuff?
Yeah. We'll be there probably 4 or 5 days. So there's always a cool group ride that's always kind of sketchy and kind of hard. And they weave us through all their alleyways and their dirt and their what they train on, so it's kind of dope. And then, one day we'll just go explore and try to get in a long ride. So it's always pretty dope, you catch a little bit of Australia while you're there, not just racing.
That's awesome. You like starting in a little cooler temps than the early August, early September sort of dry American scene, or do you like that dry stuff?
I really like the dry and the heat for like the bikes just stay really nice. I like racing in the mud a lot more. It's just a lot more work, even though, most of the year I don't have to worry about it because I have, my Squid Squad. But mud is a lot more fun to race in, I think, than the dry because it levels the playing field a little bit more. But I guess I'm racing my bike, so I'm happy. I don't really care what the conditions are.
And
cool.
Are you traveling alone, or do you take a crew with you, or how you working your logistics for pit and all that stuff when so you're going to Australia, you said you're going to afterwards you're going to be heading to China and stuff. So how do you handle all that when you're doing that?
It's pretty simple. I mean, Emily Kachorik and Chris Namba are both part owners of Squid. So Chris is the full-time bike mechanic and designer and builder for Squid, so he'll just come on the road with us and mechanic for us and do all of our bike work with us. And Emily kind of coordinates everything and plans where we're going to stay, and then me and Sammy race the full schedule, and then Emily will do half the schedule.
Right. So you had to have a full-time crew there, which helps a lot. So now it matters even kind of less, I guess, than if it's dry or muddy, and you'd probably like to kind of have your conditions. But sounds like, because they're obviously coming on the opposite end of the seasons from us, so they're coming out of winter, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in that I don't know what, March, April time frame for us. So probably
Exactly.
Probably not going to be dry then, right?
No, last year it was pretty muddy. We ran mud tires both days. The course was super, super kind of muddy and slick, and it was on off cambers, and it did rain that day. I think it hailed a little bit before our start, so it's kind of cool. You always get pretty good cross conditions, and then you get the 180 of it because then you fly to China, where it's like 95, 100 degrees, and you're racing in the most humidity.
So that's your preparation to come back here and hit these September ones that are 90 degrees. Everybody complains about, and then I always tell people I don't want to hear their complaining because we used to road race up through September, right?
That's true, man. What the sick?
Where are you going? Where are you going in China?
Don't laugh at me when I tell you I don't know.
It's a big place. Have you raced in China before? I thought you told me you raced in Japan last year, right?
I did. I raced in Japan and China last year, and we're doing the same thing again. I know where I was in Japan. China, I think maybe Beijing. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know where I was.
Well, what's the scene like there? Are they into it? Is it a big deal?
Oh yeah, dude! It was the biggest thing you ever seen on. It was awesome.
Yeah.
There was just freaking people everywhere cheering, and there's a lot of really good dudes down here, and you always get a lot of good Americans that come to this race too, and they're super into it. It's awesome. Like they do a really good job with the courses. There's tons of fans. It's awesome.
Is there anything that's really
it's cool to see it?
Go ahead.
The courses are just really gnarly. USA is starting to get really good, making their courses really technical. But the China one they're always pretty technical. And one of them is kind of cool. You race through kind of a jungle area. I don't know. It's just so different, and it's really awesome. You always get to race some of the Belgium guys, and it's just a really cool experience.
That's amazing. What sort of technical stuff are you seeing on the courses that you'd like to see here?
They had this really crazy double log setup where it was this huge massive log. You had dismount and run up, and then go around a U-turn, and then drop back down, and then run up another log it on another U-turn. and you could ride it, but riding it wasn't as fast as running it, especially in a group. And that was a pretty cool feature. They had like a 9 stair that you had to run up, which was like run up to a flyover, but it was like a 9 or 10 stair, which was pretty dope. And there was a pretty cool like twisty pump section on the backside of the course last year, which was awesome, with like switchbacks and stuff.
Very
There's
cool.
just some cool like different stuff to see in the courses, you know.
Do you get to spend any time in China and Japan like you do Australia? You getting some group rides and stuff down in there too?
Probably Japan the most, because we're there all of November, because we do, you know, Nabayoma, which is Daisuke's race, and then we'll do Utsunomiya, and then there's another race that we do the weekend after. So last year we were there for 2 weeks, so yeah, we got to do like the Tokyo the Tokyo Tower ride was sick. We rode around like Tokyo and like down through like by the Tokyo Tower with it all lit up and all the lights of Tokyo lit up. It was sick. That was probably one of the sickest rides I've ever done.
That's awesome.
The scene is so cool in Japan, man. Everyone's got a handmade bike. Everybody's bike is custom painted. Like everyone has some crazy style over there. It's so sick. It's like not one person looks like the other. It's so badass.
It sounds like it's right up your alley.
Yeah, dude. Like Above Bike, who takes good care of us when we go over to Japan and race, which is like the greatest thing ever, man. I'm so thankful for the 2 times I've gotten to race in Japan, and he's got his own brand called Mudman, and then he's got Mud Woman because he makes, you know, specific bikes for female and male, and his bikes are all custom painted. They're like ridiculously like pinstriped. They're airbrushed. He has a full-time painter there, and he does really well because everybody wants like a custom painted bike. It's just way different from, you know, as everyone in the U.S. just wants a black carbon bike, you know.
So it's like you sound like you're going to be. I mean, you got a pretty full schedule. You're going to be mostly like. It sounds like maybe from the surface you're going to spend a lot of time in Asia this fall. Are you crisscrossing back and forth a lot, or are you staying there? How do you get it kind of mapped out here? Like what's the trajectory?
So,
you got going on?
We start with Australia and China, and that kind of like gets you, you know, kind of opened up for the World Cups. So we'll come back in September for the 2 World Cups, and then we will go to the West Sacramento Grand Prix out here in California, and then I'll fly home and I'll do Gloucester, and then I'll probably take a weekend off, and then we head up to Canada for Pan Am's. Then we go from Pan Am's to Japan because we have our first race weekend in Japan, and then we'll have a second race weekend in Japan. And then I might do the race weekend before Nationals, and then we go to Kentucky.
Wow.
So it's like you kind of zigzag back and forth through the year.
Yeah, that's a lot of crossing back and forth, and especially you're not even West Coast, so you're kind of East Coast and West Coast and Asia. So that's gonna be a full schedule. How do you manage in your training at that point? I mean, obviously when you're racing a lot, you're not so concerned with getting a lot of training. It's more trying to get recovery than anything. But I imagine that's difficult too when you may not even have your bike. You're trying to have a bike buried back east and at home. And so how does kind of all that logistics work for you?
I just leave 3 bikes at home fully built. I always have 2 bikes with me on all the races. And, you just go train like you're at home, especially when you just usually Monday, you have a typical Monday through Friday schedule you have that you stick to during cross season because, all of your training is done through the summer, all your efforts. And so you're already fit going into the season. You're just trying to get to your peak speed and then maintain it. So basically, you need 2 hours a day max through the week to train, and that's not a big deal, the places you go. And if you want to, you can add a little bit here and there if you feel good. And then, weeks you don't have a race weekend, you just train a little bit more because you're home and you have more time to recover.
Right. Are there any scenarios where do you have weekday races? I don't know how they're working it in Japan and some of those are, it's you get into your road race.
if there is one, we'll probably do it. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't mind. You know, it's just like, hey man, there's a bike race. Yeah, let's just go do it. Whatever. Open up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know what they had for opportunities. If it was more weekend based, or what this kind of the scene is over there. Because I don't think most of us think of China, Japan as being cyclocross kind of hot spots, but it sounds like it's quite popular. And didn't know if they were kind of starting to run into the weekdays as well with that, or if it's still mostly weekend, and and how they have it set up.
Well, I haven't experienced anything in China. I don't think we were there like long enough.
Right.
But in Japan, like I said, it was sick, dude. On it, like that Tokyo Tower ride we did, that was actually a Rafa Shop Wednesday night ride that they do every Wednesday night. So they wait until 8 o'clock and then they go on the Wednesday Tokyo Tower ride. So that was like so freaking mad because that was like a group ride in Japan, and like most people had like custom road bikes or custom cross bikes, and then there would even be people that were like traveling and just jumped into the group ride. Because when you're part of like the Rafa like club, you can ride from any location. You get the listserv of all their like group rides, which is like really cool.
Oh, nice.
So and there's also like there's a big cyclocross scene in Japan, and they have like a little like cyclocross playground outside of Kawasaki, and you always run into bike racers there, which is pretty cool,
Yeah, and like so. I'm kind of I'm not a cyclocross rider myself, so kind of when the road season folds up, I'm heading to the track, right? So especially now we have Milton up here now, so it's like they actually opened up this yesterday was the first one of the season, so it's always nice and clean there, but it's interesting kind of hear a little bit about like because you're getting a lot of sampling of a lot of different stuff, so you're kind of becoming almost like this little collection point of per se of. You're in Australia, you're in China, you're in Japan, you're back here crisscrossing back and forth, and what are kind of the biggest differences you see? I mean, is it like Asia, like they tend to run some kind of more technical stuff? Do you see that kind of filtering over? Do you see a lot of because more you guys are going back and forth, so how is that feedback kind of happening, and what things do you see kind of us exporting, and what things are we importing? Kind of things from course standpoints and maybe even rider styles, or kind of extend that out, like on the track things, bigger gears keep kind of coming up as equipment gets faster, and people try different things, and the nature of match sprinting has changed over the years, and kind of what are the imports and exports you see either by courses, by riders, and things that you see kind of mixing?
But I would say, like, I don't know, the biggest thing I noticed is like everybody's getting really a lot better technically, because it matters in cyclocross now about how good you are technically. And I've noticed across the board from when I started racing cyclocross 10 years ago, basically, the courses weren't as technical as they are now. Now they like strive to make them technical and hard. So everyone is driven to be a lot more like a lot more of a technical rider. As before, you used to see people that would like be faster on like dry courses or wet courses, and they would need like a course specification to win. As now everybody works so hard at it, you see more well-rounded riders. As like 8 years ago, you had people who had rider styles. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you see people kind of developing more of that, in probably a kind of in a good way. And I'm just thinking back to, I know for a while, courses tend to be kind of like, I would call them grass criteriums, right? And it kind of
exactly, which are just kind of lame. I mean, they're fine. I don't mind racing them. You just have to race them differently. But it's just like, it's so nice to actually like, because you don't want to see 15 guys in a cyclocross race. It's better when it's broken up into groups, so you have a race, and this guy goes to that guy, and.
Yeah, well, it makes it exciting, and people like to go to those vantage points of things that are going to be technically hard, and I think it's interesting when you see like amateurs race a course, say first, right, and then they kind of have this investment, right, because they weren't able to ride certain sections or whatever, something was difficult, and it makes these points of interest for people to say how is somebody like yourself going to be able to ride that, and people get kind of amazed at the skill level, and it kind of I think it raises their bar and their expectation, right? Because now they're kind of like, well, I can strive to that. Whereas before, like, there's no way you can ride this, too hard, right? And all of a sudden, I think it kind of opens people up a little bit to being better, and like you said, from a spectator standpoint, it's fun to watch that aspect, and also, like you say, the aspect of when it's, is this group going to chase back, and especially at the pro level, it's never really done, right? I mean, you get a gap, and guys will chase that back, and there's a lot more change up, and I think it adds a lot to see fun type courses like that.
Yeah, it's really cool to watch people go back and forth, and it's just like you have more of a chance at like a battle than opposed to somebody just riding away from everybody, which is like really nice.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And that's why I like seeing the courses do that.
Are you seeing a lot of other guys traveling to Japan, especially American riders traveling to Japan and China and Australia? Like, you hear about guys going to Europe, but you seem to be maybe a little more unique in that schedule. Is that something that more American riders are doing, or are you kind of on your own in that?
No, there's always a good 5 to 10 American riders that go, but it's pretty awesome, because we all get to like hang out and shred and do what we do, just in a different country, freak out. It's kind of sick. It makes you less homesick and makes things a little easier when you have people, and especially with the Squid crew, they're just like my family away from home. So it makes life a lot easier when I'm on the road.
That's awesome. And how many years now have you been with Squid? You came up with them a few years back.
Yeah, dude, believe it or not, this is my 5th year, which is freaking sick.
Yeah, you're
5 years, man.
You've gone from that kind of new guy to the little more seasoned vet now in the pro world. I remember reading about you in Bicycling Magazine. I don't know, maybe 5 years ago.
It's pretty much. Yeah, I started to be kind of fast, like my main year on Jam, and this will be my 7th nationals this year. So I went from kind of being like the new guy to being like a seasoned, pretty good racer that's always coming around, which is kind of cool to watch that grow and kind of become something like that. Because, let's face it, if you ever told me I was going to be a bike racer, 8 years ago, that on a professional level, I was like, nah, man, I'm just kind of like, I race and I just, get some top 10s. It's cool,
Well, that's always been kind of
cool.
the good story for people who know you or know about you. The story that I've heard, and you can correct me here if it's wrong, but you were out riding around on a mountain bike and ripped jean shorts, and J-Pow came along training, and you stuck on his wheel long enough that he said you should start racing, and that's kind of where it started, right?
Yeah, that's true. That was actually, believe it or not, man, just about, I would say almost, it's over 10 years, because my son is almost 10, and I met Jeremy and my son wasn't even born yet, and I was on a road bike, but it was a heavy-ass old-school road bike, and I just kind of ran into Jeremy, and that was it, man. Just, now I'm almost 32 years old, and I'm freaking racing bikes still, which is kind of cool, and just to watch that. And Jeremy's still like one of my best friends. So it's kind of crazy how I would have never thought of that 10 years ago. Like, yeah, man, that's where I'm going. And it's just been so freaking amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now everybody knows you too. So it's amazing to see you as this, top level professional that everybody's watching, and you're real popular on your Instagram stories. I don't know how many people you get that follow those, but anytime I'm having a bad day or even not, I just click on and just watch whatever you're doing in that moment, because you are always having so much fun. Like, even out of season, when you're just like at work moving chairs and setting up tents, and like, how do you maintain that energy and that like constant level of just like having a good time to where, you click in there and I'm going to smile every time I see it?
But I don't know, man. I have bad days like everyone else too, but I just try to like. I really love doing all that stuff and like being really busy and like having like all those really crazy days. So like I'll always ride my bike no matter what. I'm always gonna work really hard. It's just kind of what I do, and I like doing it positive because like I don't know, that makes me feel really good. And literally, I just kind of gram what I'm doing to the day. I don't really grasp that it's like helping anyone or doing anything. I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna gram this because it's funny, or like I like if I yell at Mickey, I just like that's what I do all day. So I want people to see that I do yell at Mickey all day, but in a funny way. And I don't know, it's just how I am. I've been that way for years, and I just decided to start storming it so people can kind of see what it is. Like I had no idea it would impact anyone. I just kind of drink coffee and freak out.
It's like your own little reality show. And like I said, I don't know how many people. I'm sure you can track how many people watch it, but I know a lot of people that do. And we were in the bike shop the other day, and something came up, and I just said, just watch what Ant's doing, and we put you on, and just saw you having a good time and laughed, and it's always refreshing because it's always so genuine and it's always happening. Like you just constantly bring that high energy, and I think people are drawn to that. So it's very cool to see.
So I know how to do, man. I've been doing it since 1987. I freaking came into radness. You know what? I tell people something had to come on this planet to make everyone as happy as the El Camino, because the El Camino disappeared in 1987 and I was born. So I'm just like the El Camino of these days.
I like that.
Well, and I think the El Camino was a classic, so I think you're fitting the bill here. So. No, it's good, man. It's like, so give us a little your story. I mean, Tony kind of alluded a little bit to it there, and you kind of hooked up with J Power early on, but kind of what were you doing? I mean, as far as background in cycling, and you're out riding around doing something, but what kind of got you hooked, and and then what kind of brought you to this point?
It's really kind of simple, man. Like I just started riding a bike to stop being a loser and a drunk. Like my wife at the time was pregnant, so I just needed something to keep from drinking. So I rode, and then I just started to get fast, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm fast. I guess I'll race. And then I was kind of good at it, and like I finally like kind of had friends, so I just kept doing it, and it was really that simple, man. And that's how I just got to this point right now. Like, it was really, like, that simple. It was only driven because I was proud of not being a bum anymore, I just kind of went from, being not that rad and kind of drunk to where I am now and where I've been for, 10 years, and, like, focused on being a dad and helping my family, and it's kind of, like, turned me around. Now I don't see it ever differently, That's how I see things every day.
Cool. So Tony, you were at Trumansburg. How'd that go for you?
It was good. I really, really enjoyed the course a ton. I like real technical crit courses, and I think that's the first one really this year that I've been to that's been that technical. And I enjoyed that end of it. It rained a little bit during the first race when I raced, and that made it a little bit tricky. There was some standing water and so forth, but that's part of it. It just changes sort of the dynamics. I raced later in the afternoon after it dried up, and that made it a little more fun, especially knowing the lines at that point and really being able to hit it hard. But it's one of those courses where like it's easier to be first wheel than fifth wheel kind of a thing, which is kind of fun. How about you? What'd you think?
Yeah, definitely. I thought there's kind of a couple things with Trumansburg. It was a first year event, and I thought overall they ran it pretty well. One of the things I appreciate a lot about an event is when they run on time. And then they nailed it. 3:15 start. We were 3:15. We were wheels turning. So it was cool. I kind of like that. It just maybe as I got older, I got kind of more particular. But I just like being able to like, hey, I know when to get there. I get my stuff together. I'm ready to go, and then we hit it. And so that was really cool. And I thought that was just something to note from a promoter standpoint for that race is like, yeah, first year, and then they nailed it right on time. Everything rolled nice. And yeah, the course I think was really nice from a rider standpoint. it was fantastic. You know, road surface was good. It was a little bit tight, but good, and but not overly tight. It wasn't something like it wasn't like an 8 or 10 corner 1K course, right?
Right.
So you had plenty of opportunities to move up if you wanted to. It wasn't like, well, if you weren't in the top, top 5 or 10 on the second turn, it was lights out for you. It was good. It kind of gave it enough technical aspects to make it interesting and to kind of draw that out of people, and at the same time open enough that especially with that little hill made it kind of interesting, right?
Yeah. I kind of like the way that worked into it. That was sort of the most open spot on the course too. So if you wanted to move up, you know that was a good spot to do it, but you had to work to hit that hill. So that was cool. And the way they kind of had that sweeping corner into it, I thought was smart in the design. I talked to the director there, and he was trying to go out to Main Street and then cut up a kind of a 90 there, which would have been interesting, but maybe a lot more difficult, certainly not more difficult for traffic. So I thought it was a good idea the way that he ran that, and it made for a fun course, definitely, and some good racing. All the races were pretty well blown apart on those corners, which is cool. I think that's a sign of a good hard crit.
Yeah, and it wasn't, but there was no blowouts. It was, I think, it kept the action kind of rolling. As you had, and especially on the last race, the Open Men's race was never really spooled out too far. It was always kind of, it was always there, and so yeah, I think he's got something really nice there. From a promotional standpoint, he's going to need to get in front of people a little bit more. It was all very residential and not a lot of place to gather spectators. But from a rider standpoint, it was great, and it was nice to have a race that was somewhat local and well put together. Prize money was nice too for a nice little bonus, and overall, I thought it was a really cool race. You said you raced twice. Which 2 races did you do?
I did the 4, and then I did the Masters race. It was my first ever Masters race, so that was kind of a fun experience. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it's a different sort of feel. I thought guys are racing hard; they don't race negative, but with good control and good bike handling going through the corners and stuff. I can see why it's appealing. So it was kind of cool to do my first one. I'm kind of on the younger end of that, so I don't think I'll do too many of them anytime soon. I'm 35, so occasionally you get those 35 plus that are out there. But something definitely that kind of triggered and went, over the next 10 years or so, I could see doing more of these and enjoying racing in these fields for sure.
Yeah, Masters is always interesting, and there haven't been a lot of 35 pluses in the last couple of years. I always feel like as the older I get, to keep raising the Masters race ages up, and I'm like, hey, what happened here? But I kind of pick and choose the Masters races I'll do. It's like if it's it's a national calendar race, I'm not as apt to anymore. Just after this many years to jump in to those, but I will if it's the course is right. But otherwise, I'll kind of seek out those Masters races because I've gone out several times out to Gateway Cup, which is coming up next week. And they have a really well-attended Masters races out there, and it's fun because it's really a lot of guys like me have been Cat 1s, pros, guys that have been racing for a lot of years, and those races they're always hotly contested, and it's fun to see some of the faces that you've seen for 20, 30 years, and it's always good, and so I like those Masters races for different reasons as I get older, I guess. But it was nice to see a 35 pluser in this too, and kind of give people a little selection, and guys like yourselves give you some options, to race twice if you wanted to. So, and how did you wind up placing?
I was third in the sprint in the Masters, so that was cool. We came up with a group, and I got beat at the line there, but that was good. I missed the break in the 4, and I was 4th there. So, but they were quite a bit ahead. So that was kind of a bummer on the first race, but it was nice to go out and get the second one and at least be in that sprint. So it was good. It was a good outing. So
nice. So what was missing? Was it speed, or were you just not in the right spot? What's your story?
Well, I don't want to make excuses on it because that's not cool. And the guy beat us, so he beat me up. But yeah, I didn't maintain my equipment very well, I guess is what we'll leave it at. So that hurt a little bit. If you're gonna go to ETAP, make sure you charge your batteries. That's the lesson that you learn. So I finished with 1 gear in the last 3 laps of that race.
I only need 1 gear.
Yeah, if I was a better sprinter, it wouldn't matter. So,
I'm sticking with my cables. I'm still riding my 10-speed cables. That's all right. It's just fine.
Yeah, I went to the ETAP this year, and it's cool. I didn't think that I would really care that much about it, and it's really neat. It's smooth. It's amazing. But yeah, you got to charge the batteries. That's the hard lesson you learn if you don't do it before the race. And I thought about it before, and I was like, nah, I'm probably fine, and I'll do it later. And well, it went dead with 3 to go in the second race. So. I learned my lesson the hard way. So
yeah, you won't repeat it now. See, it's like I used to say about when I was much younger, I would like go to some race, and I remember going to a race up in Canada. I remember the race too. It was a Turkey Point road race, and everybody used to always say, "Where is it?" I'd say, "It's Turkey Point." It's actually Turkey Point is along the shore of Lake Ontario on the north side, on the Canadian side. They had this race in the spring, and I was like, it was one of these races. I'm like, I don't really care that much about it. I'm just gonna race on my training wheels, right? And didn't I get a flat? And I started thinking about like, what did I just do to myself, right? I mean, I just invested all this time and everything getting to this race to now I'll get a puncture, and now I'm chasing, or I'm waiting for the wheel van. I would kind of take myself out of the race because I was using stuff that I just shouldn't. I should have been racing my race stuff,
Right.
And so it kind of like it was like, you're like, it'll probably be fine. You're like, look, I invested time and effort to be at this race. Why don't I just make sure the thing's charged?
Yep.
Taking you like, 30 seconds to plug it in the night before and just make sure now you'll just never now it's kind of this lesson. See, like I have this Turkey Point road race in my head from like 20 years ago. You'll have this ETAP moment in your head where you'll be like, I'm just going to charge it because it's not like it's going to do anything. It's not going to harm me by having it charged.
No, yeah, you can't overcharge it. It wouldn't have been a big deal to put it on there, right?
Right. And it's usually because of some lazy thing, or you're like, it'll be fine, and it's not. Now you have this big moment in your head. You're like,
I know. And the older you get, the more you realize, like, you only get so many opportunities. I think when you first start racing and you're younger, you're like, whatever, there's a race every weekend. And that doesn't mean you don't take it seriously, but maybe you don't worry as much about those kind of things. And I've gotten to the point where I do care more about that and think more about that. And sometimes things happen that are just out of your control. We were at the Buffalo race a week or two before that, and guys touched wheels in front of me and went down on the last lap, and I ended up in the grass and had to ride out of the grass to get back into the back of the sprint, and and to avoid the crash, and it wasn't in the sprint, and you're kind of like, man, I wasted that whole day up there to race, and went through the whole thing the last lap, and then just out of my control, right? It sucks, but that's racing. But you realize like you only have so many opportunities, so you don't want to screw up the things that you can control, because those things you can't control are going to happen.
Right, and that's kind of the thing, right? You have things you can control, so why set yourself up for things to happen, right? So yeah, sometimes you just have those moments, and it's frustrating. But then then you kind of put that forward as like, yeah, all right, you get a little wisdom as you get older, like, yeah, I'm just not gonna fool around with that because it's not worth it. There's enough stuff that I can't control, so I might as well make sure the things that I can that I do, and not leave them to something happening. But so it's kind of a little bit of a bummer that you kind of cost yourself a little bit of an opportunity, and whether you were faster or not, it doesn't matter because it's over now. The moment's passed, and now you have to suffer with it. Well, I didn't have my stuff where I needed it to be, but nonetheless, good lesson going forward. And what else you got for road? Are you going up to Buffalo this week, or is that road done for you, or what do you got going?
Yeah, I'm going to go get one more in. I'm going to go up to East Arcade, I think, on Saturday, and hit that one up, and then that'll be it for road for me. After that, I'll start doing some cross, which I've never done much of before, so it'll be a new experience for me. I used to coach soccer at the high school I work at for 8 years, so by this time I was well into preseason, and that kind of took over, and I'd usually race Fader, and that would kind of be the end of my end of my season up until recently. But now that I'm not doing that any longer, I thought, all right, I'm gonna try this cross stuff and see how it goes and race a good schedule. I'm gonna go to Gloucester this year, so that'll be fun to go to a real big, East Coast event and see what that's all about. So definitely hit a schedule there, but I'm gonna get one more road in. I'm gonna do the Highlander gravel ride in a couple weeks too. So I thought that'll be fun just to kind of get out and do a more non-competitive thing and ride with some friends and check out their gravel route. So definitely a lot of fun stuff in the fall and a lot of cross racing. I'd like a little more road and like to see that season go a little bit longer, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's just all things change, and things will morph as we go forward as well. And cross is still kind of finding itself, I think, in some of that. And it was nice to see Milton opened up yesterday with some racing. So the fall winter track season is on, and it was good to see full track up there too. I mean, every race was 30 guys. That's a full track on a 250. And the youth races were full too. And that's always really encouraging, right? To see, 25, 30 kids and these are kids that are like 10, 12 years old, sometimes a little bit younger. So seeing that whole crop of kids coming up, and then seeing some of the older juniors, coming into the A's and the B races and stuff, and it's like, some of those kids are fast, and it's cool, and it's nice to see kids in the cross. It's nice seeing, especially like even in Rochester scene, there's a lot of kids that are coming out to those cross events and things, and I think it's picking up some momentum, and you always kind of worry, you get concerned, and you see, everybody always wonders like, where's this sport going, and it's ebbs and flows, and really seeing the kind of that, and I'm even seeing interest from kids on the roadside. There's inquiries, and an inquiry this past week from a 15-year-old that wants to start racing in this area, and he wants to road race, and he hasn't done any other racing, but he's really keen on road racing, and that's happened a couple of times in the last year. I see, so you kind of wonder sometimes when a big name goes out. And you always wonder, like we had the Le Mans phase, and you had Lance Armstrong, and you have these different things happen, right? And you think, well, boy, they're kind of not there, and what's it going to happen? And it's good to see it carry on its own. And cross is a great intro to that. Track is a great intro to that, and it's good to see both of those being really strong.
Yeah, for sure. I love cross for the kids, especially, and that's one thing too with me. I've got a daughter now, and she's only one, so she's got a few years before she would be even interested in anything like that, but I could definitely see the appeal of going to a cross race on the weekends in the fall and being able to have your kid race and you race, and everything's pretty enclosed and there's no road traffic, and especially when they're under that 12, 15 sort of age before you can start to launch them into road stuff too. So that's super appealing. And great news we got just the other day here. GVCC has their youth cross camp that starts, I believe, this week or next week. On Thursdays, that they've had a ton of success with, and they just got done building a new set of permanent Belgian stairs at the YMCA camp where they hold that, and where Park Ave does a couple of cross races as well. So it's really cool that they're building and adding that, and we were able to help with that funding a little bit through the group ride that we held with Jeremy Powers and Anthony Clark through our gravel series, where we raised some money, and they used it to build those and sent me some photos, and that looks really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that in person, so it'll be a fun feature for the kids to get up there, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of the adults trying to ride those things too.
Yeah, that's cool to see, kind of a little bit like we talked with Anthony, on the technical aspects, and seeing some of those things, and and kind of building those things is cool to kind of now people have a chance to practice those things, and it keeps raising everybody's level when you have these things, and kind of putting some more permanent things in place, and the clinics and all that stuff is really super to see. And Scott Page will obviously do a fantastic job with the cross at Genesee Valley Park, and he has all his non-permanent stuff that seems permanent when you're there. He'll put on a big production, and it's I think those technical courses are always fun to watch too, and I'm looking forward to that. And that's coming up in just a few weeks in September, I think here, right?
Yeah, I think 8th and 9th is that date. We'll definitely be up there. That'll be a lot of fun. We hit that last year, and there's a full pro race there, and they get some big names last year. Stephen Hyde was there, J-Paw was there, Curtis White was there. Like, it was Spencer Petrov. I mean, they had the gamut of American racers there. So you talked about with Anthony, going to watch these races and riding first as an amateur, and then watching the pros do it, and I had one of those and going, holy cow, how'd they do that? I definitely had one of those moments there. That first hill that comes up toward the bridge there at the beginning of the course, you're weaving through and you hit that, and we rode that, and it didn't even register in my brain that somebody could ride a bicycle up that. Like, it's so steep. Like, you're digging your feet in and trying to mountain go up this thing as you're carrying your bike to go through. And it's fairly early in the course. It's a hard course. It's a long course. And there's a couple of those real steep uphills, and that was kind of the first of it. I never even thought of trying to ride it. And then the pros go out there and hit it. And I think it was Hyde and Powers and White were like the first three, and all three of them just go boom, boom, boom up it, and I'm just like, holy crap! Like, I can't believe that they rode that, especially after everybody else had been running and putting digs and holes in the thing all day long, and they just rode it like it was nothing. It's cool. It's so cool. So people should definitely get up and check that out, even if you're just a bike fan and you just want to see some cool racing. It's a good scene. So.
Yeah, definitely. I try to make that. I encourage people a lot to do that. I mean, it's just, if you love the sport, and if you love just even seeing, people that are top level. But as an amateur racer, I mean, it really kind of, take notes of the lines they pick, and you can learn a lot by watching those guys, and and what's possible, and seeing them do things. Like, all right, well, that is possible to do, and things you wouldn't have thought of before. Or maybe they pick a line that you thought, boy, I would have taken this line. Why, I took the outside line, and man, he always passed like one or two guys going through this part, and things that you can just pick up and take forward in your own racing the next venue you do, even if it's not the same course. And now Rochester's got an advantage if it's 2 days. Like it's been, you can watch the one day and pick up some interesting things and apply them the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. I raced both days last year, and that was really the first year that I raced much cross at all, and I didn't do a ton of events, but I did that one and a few others that followed, and definitely the second day for me was much, much better, especially as a newer racer to it, because I was able to go out and hit the same course again and have watched the guys after me race, and I definitely rode things, and I mountain biked enough and enjoy that end of it enough where I'm not too timid on the technical stuff, but it's different on a cross race, and you gotta learn how to apply it. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and being able to do things differently and learn from it the second day.
Yeah, certainly. And then, then you head to some other courses, even you kind of see some similar features. So it's a great opportunity. And there's, we have a nice array of smaller races, some big races in our area. I mean, we're really in a great spot here. And I have to think back to when, the little known fact that I raced cyclocross in 1989. And
they had cyclocross in 1989.
I know, it's crazy, right? And my friend Murat and I we used our road bikes, and we glued up our GP4 box rims from our road rims with some knobby tubulars that we read about in Bella News. And there's no online anything then, right? So we were just trying to figure stuff out, and we went out to the nationals in Milwaukee, But there was our only cross race, because there was no cross races around. You had to either scrounge one up in New England, and there were very few and far between, and there was none in this area, zero. Like, people didn't even hardly know what cyclocross was, right? Like, what is that, right? So you see that all kind of transform now. It's pretty cool. Just kind of see how many opportunities there are, big events, small events, and you can just race so much now without having to travel very far. And I think it's kind of a really cool kind of a fall scenario for people to be able to do. And if you don't want to get dirty, we welcome you at the Velodrome. It's always 80 and dry.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that as appealing. That's the hardest thing for me about. Not that I mind getting dirty necessarily, but just like the wear and tear on the equipment, especially on the muddier races when it gets a little later in the season. The dry stuff is fine, and then you get later and you're ripping stuff apart, and that gets a little bit tough and a little frustrating sometimes, but it's all part of it. Some people love that end of it, I guess.
Yeah, they do. But it's cool. So we got some good stuff coming up, and Track Pan Ams is coming up, and we got a cool guest coming on for that too. We'll kind of leave that as a bait for people.
Yeah, we're gonna do some track talk. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a lot of fun, and I guess we'll keeping our eyes on Anthony as he's heading to Australia, and kind of tracking his results, and maybe see him in this area at some point too. He's got a big schedule coming up, a lot of travel. But it's cool to see guys like him really pushing the top end out there, and in new venues, and just exporting and importing different things from around the world. It's really cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I think probably the closest we'll see him this year on his schedule will be Gloucester, which is not super close. But he does, come out and do. And we didn't get a chance to talk to him too much about that because he had to get out and hit his training ride before he gets back on a plane. But he came out for our gravel series last year and does quite a bit of gravel racing. He does Rasputista and Perry Ancaster. I believe he's won both of those over the years. I think he also won the one Blackfly in the Adirondacks one year. So he's been a very active gravel racer from the cross scene, which I think you're starting to see more of that. But he's kind of one of the first guys to do that. We didn't get quite a chance to talk to him about that. Maybe we'll get him on again and be able to talk about that when we get closer to that end of things. But he's big into that stuff and has been around quite a bit in this area for that. So I know he's got a lot of fans around here because he's been here and he's met people. And if you meet him, you can't help but love him because he's just so positive and full of energy and just loves to ride his bike.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool as we get to where we are. We got an interesting fall ahead of us, and winter, and of course, then things will be looping back around. So it'll be cool to see how his season kind of transforms here as well, and progresses, and then we start moving back into gravel. And obviously, gravel's here to stay for a long time. I think more people are kind of getting into it, which is great for just another outlet for people. So
yeah,
cool to see.
I saw on Instagram today or the other day that Brendan Hauser raced Gravel Worlds. So that was kind of cool to see a guy like him getting into it. I know it was a new thing for him. I'm looking forward to maybe we get him back on at some point and hear about that and hear what he's been up to again. But I'm hoping I can get him to come out and do our gravel races next year now that he's sticking his toe into it. I know he's done bat and kill, but a lot of these gravel races are a lot different than bat and kill for sure. A lot more technical, and bat and kill's not really a gravel race. It's more of a road race with some gravel sections. So to see what it was like for him to do that and see if he's going to keep going down that road will be very interesting.
Yeah, I was just gonna comment quickly, and it's like there was, I think a few people were a little bit surprised. I wasn't surprised. It was like I'm kind of surprised he hasn't done gravel sooner because it really suits his style of racing. I was kind of like, well, I'm not surprised he's doing it. I'm surprised it's taking him this long.
Yeah,
but
no, I agree. I was trying to tell him that last year when I was trying to get him to come up and do our races. I was like, I mean, his power output for something like that is just. It fits him, like you said. I think maybe the technical handling end of things might make him a bit, maybe something that he's not super comfortable with, and not that he's a, inexperienced bike handler, but I don't think he's ever raced a lot of cross or mountain or anything like that. So if you're on a real technical course, I could see him making adjustments there, but he's a great athlete, and those things will come quickly for him. I'd love to see him race some of these really good cross guys and see how, his endurance and power and used to racing long races matches against guys with really good handling skills who are used to racing short races, and see how that pans out. That could be really cool to watch.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting. It could be an interesting conversation, but yeah, it's cool to see people kind of branching some different things and trying some things. So, but not that you'll see me at a gravel race anytime soon.
I'm gonna get you there at some point.
Maybe. I'll never say never, but it probably won't be in the near term.
We'll ease you in. You can come do the Gravel Highlander with me in September, and then we can we can work you in that way. Or you can come do our gravel preview ride in October at the Swain Beer Fest.
Yeah, we'll see. I do have a cross bike, but a little known, right? It's like, I have a cross bike, and it's like I have aero equipment for time trialing too. There's certain things I have that a lot of people haven't seen, but my cross bike's nothing to behold. It's old and heavy, but it's fine because all I do is goof around on it. So maybe we'll get one of your night rides or something again with Caster and crew out there. That was fun last year. So
yeah, absolutely. We'll be hitting those pretty soon too.
Yep, that'll be fun. So, well, cool. Well, we'll keep in touch, and hopefully we'll touch base back in with Anthony here as well.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. We got a new guest coming up here in a couple weeks, and I think we're gonna try to do something from Rochester Cyclocross too. So cool. Stay tuned, and you and I can hook up and do a little spot from there. I think we might be getting Dan Strine from Gnarly Monkey involved in that one. So.
Yeah, that'd be great. So, all right, buddy. Well, train hard, man. You got a lot of races coming up.
All right, sounds good. I'll see you in a couple days.
You got it. All right, see ya.
Later.